We've been told that Joe Biden and the Democrat Party was they had the black people on lock, man. Unfortunately for the Democrats, that is not the case. That is most certainly not the case, man. We gotta get some music up in here, man. We gotta slow jam this one, man. We gotta slow jam this one. We gotta slow jam this one. We gotta slow jam this one. All right, guys. Guys, listen. The Democrats are in trouble. Democrats are in trouble. Democrats are in trouble. Let me make sure I enlarge this a little bit for you, man. Let me enlarge this a little bit for you, man, so you can see what's going on. You can see what the get down is right now. No, not me. Let's get this. Let's get this going. Let's get this popping. I want to see that, man. Cause see, what's going on right now is a very interesting thing, man. Let's get into it. Biden's approval ratings amongst black voters has been slipping, and it's slipping really bad. All right. Now, you might be thinking, what kind of right-wing publication is putting this out? This is actually ABC News, guys. This is ABC News. This is ABC News coming at you with this one, man. ABC News, y'all. ABC News is hitting you up with this one, man. ABC News, man. Oh, man. It's ABC. It's ABC News. So it's not a right-wing publication like a hard right. It ain't like a Newsmax or Fox News. No, it's ABC News, son. And I'll tell you, they are saying things are not looking great for your boy Biden. Things are not looking great for your boy Biden right now. See, I made sure I highlighted some parts here, right? So it says here, approval groups. Biden has trouble across a range of groups. His approval rating from black people, a core Democratic group, is just 52%, down from 82% when he took office. Indeed, 27% of black people say they definitely or probably vote for Trump in 2024 or lean toward him. Trump won 12% of black voters in 2020. Do you understand what that's saying to you? Joe Biden is so awful, so terrible, so atrocious as a president that you making Donald Trump look good. Think about that for a second. How are you so terrible a president that you make Donald Trump look good? You make Donald Trump look like the lesser of two evils. How is that possible? How is that possible? How is it possible that Joe Biden is so terrible at actually trying to do something for the black community, and especially foundational black Americans, you know, the black descendants of American slaves? Joe Biden has failed to do anything for us, and this man is losing support when his main opponent is his main opponent, right, is Donald Trump. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That makes no sense to me. How are you so terrible a president that you make Donald Trump look good by comparison? Like, I'm not giving Trump credit here. I think Trump was one of the worst presidents we've ever had in hindsight. I thought that I might have been some good sides, but no. And you're somehow losing support to that guy. To that guy? Like, Biden, you are that terrible that you can't win against a man who looks like a human tweet. Really? Biden has even lower approval, 40% from Hispanic people, a point from his low, and 32% among white people, matching his low. In a Biden-Trump matchup, 43% of Hispanic people say they definitely or probably support Trump or lean that way. Trump won 32% of Hispanic voters in the last election. Really? So the black community, who you've totally ignored, you haven't paid reparations, you decide to fund the police at historic levels, even though most of us wanted to see defunding of the police, maybe not that exact terms, but not so much funding and more police reform, and definitely get rid of qualified immunity. But you didn't do any of that. And you've done anything possible to appease other communities like the Asian community, Hispanic community. You've done everything possible to appease them, but nothing to appease us, the native black community here, who's been voting for the Democrats hook, line, and sinker over and over and over and over and over again. And we've got nothing in return for it, because even now, when we laid out exactly what we wanted, Joe Biden, we wanted reforms to the police, reparations, we wanted fair housing, equal housing, we wanted education benefits, we wanted something that was tangible to us, actual benefits. But then you get people who don't understand that the same way that you want your community to do well, we wanted our community to do well also. We have children, we have hopes, we have desires, we have businesses, right? We have freaking, tax payments, we got house payments, we got rent payments, we got student loan payments. We got the same problems that you have, we have too. And we want the same help that other communities have been getting. And instead of us getting that, right? Instead of us getting that, we got a bunch of empty gestures like statues, special days, shout outs at HBCUs. You get Joe Biden showing up, giving a commencement speech at a HBCU talking about the biggest domestic threat right now is white supremacy. Well, if that's the case, why won't you give the main target of white supremacy, foundational black Americans or black descendants of American slaves, and definitely black people just in general in this country, the main targets of white supremacists since this country's inception? Why not give us a bill specific to us, an anti-black hate crime bill that protects us from what you say is a #1 domestic threat right now, Joe Biden? Why won't you do it? Because you're not that much different from those supposed white supremacists. Truth be told. Because we got to go through Joe Biden's history. We got to pull up his paperwork. A little bit. See, I'm tired of everybody sitting here, faking the phone. So we're going to pull up Joe Biden's paperwork. Because the one thing that I'm known for is when people start to question me, I love to prove them wrong. Right? So let's get into it. What was Joe Biden known for? What's one of the first things Joe Biden is known for? Let's go back in time a little bit. Politico magazine. How a young Joe Biden turned liberals against integration. Whoa! It's from Politico? Are they Fox? Oh, all right. You're gonna notice this pattern where you're gonna notice that some things that I'm gonna present are based, in stuff that's not Fox News. People who are actual leftists, not the liberals, actual leftists, not the pretend leftists. The people who are Republicans, but you want to put Black Lives Matter on your profile too. Actual leftists, actual leftists. We actually don't like Joe Biden either. See, we see Joe Biden as the same thing, right? The same thing, the exact same thing as the Republicans, because he wanted the exact same thing as Republicans. 40 years ago, not 60, 40 years ago, the Senate supported school busing until a 32-year-old changed his mind. 40 years ago, a contentious battle over racial justice gripped Capitol Hill, pitting the nation's lone African-American senator against the man who would one day become Barack Obama's vice president. The issue was school busing, a plan to transport white and black students out of their neighborhoods to better integrate schools. And at the time, the most explosive issue on the national agenda. So just the idea of black children and white children. We're not talking about Hispanic people. We're not talking about Asian people, but specifically, black and white children being placed on the same school buses. And there was a certain senator, you may know him. He was against the idea of letting my black child get on the school bus with his child. And given how his child turned out, I think that's a perfectly splendid idea. Let's just put it to you like that. Ed Brooke, a Massachusetts Republican, was the first black senator ever to be properly elected. Joe Biden was a freshman Democratic senator from Delaware. By 1975, both had compiled liberal voting records, but that year, Biden sided with conservatives and sponsored a major anti-busing amendment. The fierce debate that followed not only fractured the Senate's bloc of liberals, it also signified a more wide-ranging political phenomenon. As white voters around the country, especially in the North, objected to sweeping desegregation plans, then coming into practice, liberal leaders retreated from robust integration policy. So basically, we understood how the South was going to react. But these were the Northern liberals saying, hey, we don't want black children on the same bus as our white children. Oh, so what this is saying is that we're not saying that the Republicans are great. They're racist. I wouldn't vote for them either. But what I'm saying is the Republicans, I mean, if they are Thanos, then the Democrats are certainly like the Joker. Maybe not as outright with it, but still dangerous. Still dangerous. Now, let me point something out to you. This is going to be the interesting part here. Biden was at the forefront of this retreat. He had expressed support for integration and, more specifically, busing during his Senate campaign in 1972. But once elected, he discovered just how bitterly his white constituents opposed the method. His white constituents, where again? His white constituents. Listen, was it a red state? Y'all, was it a red state? What he was? Wait a minute. I know this can't be a blue state. I know this can't be a Democrat state. Wait a minute. I'm just. Let me highlight this part here. They were against his constituents. The white constituents were against black children and white children being on the same school bus. Joe Biden was a freshman Democratic senator from Delaware. Wait a minute. Listen, I need to pause for a second. I'm truly shocked, guys. I'm shocked. You mean tell me the reason why school integration was held up at all was not so much from the South, because we know where the South stood, but the tipping point was Joe Biden? From Delaware? Oh. That is interesting. Let's get into it. We gonna pull up some receipts on Biden tonight. We gonna explain why a lot of black folks have issues with Joe Biden. We gonna pull up the receipts, baby. All right, we're gonna pull up the receipts. Y'all sit back and enjoy it for a while. I'm gonna go in tonight, man. Father ACAB is going in tonight. Right? Father ACAB is going in. By the way, The one thing that I don't do is having trolls in my chat. Jim Crow, we got to have a conversation tonight, Jim Crow. We got to have a conversation tonight. Then, as a court-ordered integration plan loomed over Wilmington, Delaware in 1974, Biden's constituents transformed their resistance to busing into an organized and angry opposition. So Biden transformed too. That year, Joe Biden morphed into a leading anti-busing crusader, all while continuing to insist that he supported the goal of school desegregation. He only opposed busing as a means to achieve that end. Oh. So you supported a black child not being able to get on the same school bus as a white child because your angry white constituents, they said, what are we gonna do, guys? Oh my God, little Jamal, he's gonna be on the same school bus. Whatever shall we do, guys? Because your Karens, your Karen constituents, they couldn't tolerate the idea of a black child being in the mere presence of their child, their most likely head lice having child, being in the same presence and being in the presence of a black child on a vehicle, even though they're all just going to go to school and then back home. In fact, they're going to just go to a bus stop. What we've been doing for a long time now with no issue. That's what Biden's Delaware blue state Democratic voters opposed. See, they were saying, hey, we don't want the police just outright hurt people. We want them to have civil rights just away from us. Just away from us. It looks very similar to what's happening in Seattle, in Tacoma, and in New York, Dallas, parts of Florida. You look at the north, you look at Michigan, you look at Philadelphia. Parts that I haven't even mentioned, where they're trying to push black folks out. Maryland, the whole state of Maryland, trying to push black folks out. We want you to have the same rights, just not around us. Same thing. Same thing happening right in front of your very eyes. And guess who still is in control right now? Joe Biden. This stance, which many of Biden's liberal and moderate colleagues also held, was clever but disingenuous. It enabled Biden to choose votes over principles while acting as if he was not doing so. History has not been so kind to the defenders of school busing. Indeed, busing was problematic as it transported children long distances away from nearby schools. But to say most whites objected to busing because it was inconvenient would be wrong. The truth is that many of them were not comfortable with the racial change that busing brought. Because when you got to ride the same bus, you got to go to the same schools. You go to the same schools, you pay the same taxes. You can't just overtax black people and charge white people a lower tax rate or the same tax rate as you charge as you charge black people, but give them a lower quality school. See, if we're all going to the same school, well, you're gonna want your children to go to good schools too. So our children going to the same school, see, that gives you an incentive to make sure that school is squared away. See, you can't economically and educationally deprive black folks if you gotta go to the same toilet. See, it don't make sense to go and destroy the freaking toilet seat when you got use the same toilet seat. See, if you gotta use the same toilet, well, see, you're gonna make sure the toilet is clean. See, that's an old adage I heard from an inmate in a correctional facility, and it stuck with me. Makes sense. don't it? But let's go into this one here. It's getting into Brown versus Board of Education, getting to a lot of the background here. But Joe Biden basically, right? He opposed busing, and he claimed that he did it because it was a backdoor way to support integration. Does that even make sense? So imagine just for a second, you say, hey, I know I went against your black child riding the same bus as a white child. I know I did that. But look at the bright side of that. Really? Really? Really, guy? Wow. 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 And let's look into some more paperwork on Joe Biden now. We're not going to get into the crime bill here. We're going to look at the Biden-Thurman Violent Crime Control Act of 1991. Now, there's more crime bills with Joe Biden, right? But this is the actual crime bill. The crime bill. Yeah, the crime bill. And it was partially signed by a strong Thurman, right? Partially signed by a strong Thurman. Do you know who Strong Thurman is? I don't think none of you know who Strong Thurman is. Do you know who Strong Thurman is? Let me show you who Strong Thurman is. I want you guys to see it. James Strong Thurman Sr., right? I know a lot about this guy because he was a South Carolina congressman and senator, right? And a governor. And I'm from South Carolina. I spent more than 30 years there. So I know about this guy. Anybody who spent more than 30 years in South Carolina for the past 30 years, up until this point knows about this guy. You've at least heard of him. You've at least heard of him. And he's one of the poster children for term limits. Right? One of the poster children for term limits. This man started out in politics back in the 50s. He was a U.S. Senator until 2003. He was a lifelong Democrat. In fact, let's go read some little excerpts here. James Strong Thurman Sr. Born December 5th, 1902. And he was out of here June 26, 2003. Was an American politician who represented South Carolina in the U.S. Senate from 1954 to 2003. 1954 to 2003. The poster child for term limits. Prior to his 48 years as a senator, he served as the 103rd governor of South Carolina from 1947 to 1951. Thurman was a member of the Democratic Party until 1964, when he joined the Republican Party for the remainder of his legislative career. He also ran for president in 1948 as the Dixiecrat candidate, receiving over 1 million votes and winning 4 states. I want to enlarge some parts here because this is who Joe Biden. I want to remind you, Joe Biden called this man his friend. He called this man his friend. I want you to understand that. Right? I want you to see this. This is very fascinating. I want you to see this, right? So, let's get into this. A staunch opponent of civil rights legislation in the 1950s and 1960s, Thurman, get this. Thurman conducted the longest speaking filibuster ever by a lone senator at 24 hours and 18 minutes in length in opposition to the Civil Rights Act of 1957. Mind you, Joe Biden signed a bill, the actual crime bill that everyone's calling racist, even some Democrats, even leftists are calling racist. He co-signed this bill with the man who is known to oppose the Civil Rights Act. What did he think the outcome of that crime bill was actually gonna be? And did he understand? Did he understand he was working with a racist? Did he understand that? Did he understand that he was working with someone who opposed the Civil Rights Act? Did he understand that? Let's keep going here. In the 1960s, he voted against the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Despite his support for racial segregation, Thurman denied the accusation that he was a racist by insisting he was a supporter of states' rights and an opponent of excessive federal authority. Thurman switched parties ahead of the 1964 U.S. presidential election, saying that the Democratic Party no longer represented people like him, and endorsed Republican nominee Barry Goldwater, who also opposed the Civil Rights Act. Wow. Wow. Listen, I've already researched this, but every time that I look into it, it's breathtaking. You gotta admit, it's breathtaking. Joe Biden called this man his friend. There's video on it. There's video. He said this man was his friend. We're gonna look that up too. Don't you worry. Don't you worry about a thing. We're gonna look it up. Right? Let's keep going into here. Barry Goldwater, he opposed the Civil Rights Act. By the 1970s, Thurman started to moderate his stance on race, but continued to defend his prior support for segregation on the basis of states' rights and Southern society at the time. Wow. Wow. So, this is who your boy calls his friend. Joe Biden. I'm going to look it up quick. Joe Biden, friend of Strom Thurmond. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Tell me Joe Biden didn't give a eulogy for Strom Thurmond and then call him his friend. Okay. Oh no. See guys, this is why you don't poke someone like me. Say, oh, you ain't got no proof. You ain't got no proof. You gonna present the receipts? You gonna present the receipts? Yeah, we gonna present the receipts. We have the receipts. From the Nation right here. Joe Biden. Friendship is magic. Friendship is... He was friends with Strom Thurmond. Joe Biden loves to rattle off the names of gone racist politicians he befriended in the same spirit of nostalgic reverie that a hero of a 19th century French novel might reminisce about the mistresses he enjoyed as a young man. At a fundraiser, the current frontrunner, he was a current frontrunner in the Democratic presidential primary, cited his warm relationship with the late James O. Eastland and the late Herman Talmadge, both ardent segregationists. They were both ardent segregationists. Wow. He said that, quote, Biden says, quote, he never called me boy. He always called me son, end quote. He's talking about one of the men that passed away there. Joe, they wouldn't call you boy. They would call me boy. That's not something that they would say to a white man. You see, Joe? But Joe Biden knows that. And it even says here, was Biden even aware of the racist code that reserved boy for black men and son for white ones? Wow. 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 The one thing that I won't tolerate again is trolling. I don't have time for white people being upset at me telling the truth here. Deal with it. Tissue for your issue. I don't have time for it. Or the patience. Or the patience. Okay? Don't have the time or patience. Or patience. Look up your boy. Oh, in the same article here, for Biden, one-to-one relationships are the essence of life in politics. In his 2003 eulogy for the famously racist Senator Strom Thurmond, Biden said that friendship and unaliving are great equalizers, where our differences become irrelevant and the only thing that is left is what's in our heart. End quote. Oh man. Oh man. Best friends. Best friends. Best friends with a racist. BFF forever. BFF forever. Wow. BFF forever, guys. Best friends forever. Let's get into it though. Let's get into it though. See, why am I doing all this? Why am I doing all this? Right? Let's get back into this, right? This is from ABC News. This is from the article that came out back on May the 6th, right? It was talking about, this is from ABC News. It's talking about some of the problems that Biden's having with some voting demographics right now. And this is from the approval groups right here. Biden has trouble across a range of groups. His approval rating from black people, a core Democratic group, is just 52%, down from 82% when he took office. Indeed, 27% of black people say they definitely or probably vote for Trump in 2024 or lean toward him. Trump won 12% of black voters in 2020. Wow. 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 So I just showed you some receipts with Biden and his little friends there. But he wrote the 1991 Violent Crime Control Act. Co-sponsored by your boy Strom Thurmond. What could a segregationist who was a literal Dixiecrat possibly want with a violent crime act that would turn out to disproportionately, just so happen, hey guys, it just so happens to disproportionately target black people. And it was co-sponsored by a segregationist. I humor me. Maybe Joe Biden is actually a segregationist. That's why he opposed the busing, and perhaps he wanted the Violent Crime Act so that black people could be disproportionately targeted in areas that white people didn't want them anyways. It is a way of giving Strom Thurmond, a send-off, a parting gift. He knows Strom Thurmond was getting older, and that white supremacy was getting weaker even back then. So you need the bulwark. Oh, I see how this works now. I see how this is the actual Violent Crime Act that was co-sponsored by Strom Thurmond. Oh. This is from the Brookings Institute. I want you guys to see this. This is from the Brookings Institute, right? From the Brookings Institute. I want you guys to see this. Did the 1994 crime bill... I want to make sure I get this right now. Did the 1994 crime bill cause mass incarceration? Did it cause mass incarceration? Let's ask those questions, guys. Did the crime bill cause mass incarceration? Let's find out. I want to know. Don't you? I want to know. Don't you? Don't you? Let's find out. Let's find out. Let's make this a little bit bigger for you. A little bigger. There we go. That way we can have a proper conversation about it. Right? This is coming from the Brookings Institute. You know, let's get into it. The Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994, commonly known as the Crime Bill, was sponsored by Joe Biden 26 years ago. It is often blamed for extending tough on crime policies that overly criminalize Black Americans. Is this narrative warranted? The issue is complicated, but we'll do our best to make some sense of it. Although the 2020 Democratic National Convention mentioned the Violence Against Women Act, it did not dwell on the more controversial parts of the crime bill. Since the beginning of the presidential race, however, former Vice President Joe Biden has been asked repeatedly about his role in creating this bill. It came up during his vice presidential selection when Congressional Black Caucus CBC Chair Karen Bass, who's now the mayor of Los Angeles at this point, right now, in this point in time in history, currently, who is under consideration as his running mate. She was going to be his running mate. That changes a lot about how you should see Karen Bass. See, I gave Karen Bass some support because she's a Black woman, and I didn't want to just come out harsh on her. I didn't want to be seen as being harsh on a Black woman, and also I wanted to give her a genuine chance. I did. Why were you being chosen as Joe Biden's running mate? I know the kind of person that Joe Biden would pick as his running mate. People like Kamala Harris, and you ask many people from the Bay Area, or many people in the Black community, we don't trust her. We don't trust Kamala Harris. So what did Joe Biden see in you that he almost made you his running mate? Just gotta ask that question. Just gotta ask that question, right? Just gotta ask that question. She responded with a shrewd history lesson. Although Bass reported that she would have opposed the bill if she had been in Congress at the time, she said, quote, "I understand very well why elected officials did what they did, because the masses of people in these communities were demanding it," end quote. Wow. Oh. Representative Bass is right. According to the 1994 Gallup survey, 58% of African Americans supported the crime bill compared to 49% of white Americans. Most Black mayors who were grappling with the record wave of violent crime did so as well, as he joined a delegation of mayors lobbying Congress to back the bill. Baltimore Mayor Kurt L. Schmoke said, "We're trying very hard to explain to Congress that this is a matter that needs bipartisan support." So these mayors were trying to grapple with crime, and they didn't understand at the time that was a reflection of poverty. Also rampant in Democrat cities. Do you see what this is an actual representation of? It shows you the violent crime problem. It was a representation of poverty, lack of opportunity. But the Democrats manipulated the Black community. You get it? The only thing worse than a slave is a person who doesn't think they are one, or the person who acts for the whip. You remember when the first wave of the Iraq and the Afghanistan war first broke out? Most people supported it. A lot of y'all don't want to admit to it, but it's true, and you know it's true. It's true, and you know it's true. Let's keep it up. Let's keep it up. Keep it up. In a more recent interview, Representative James Clyburn, a member of the House leadership and one of the most powerful African Americans elected officials, reflected on the reason for his vote in favor of the bill. Wow. 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 So you voted in favor of a bill that disproportionately targeted black people. A bill that was originally written not even with Joe Biden, but with the help of Strom Thurmond, a segregationist. Oh, okay. Wow. Wow. James Clyburn, huh? James Clyburn, huh? He says crack was a scourge in the black community. Oh. A scourge. You think the substance was the problem, not the underlying reasons why people were actually using it or getting clipped on it. Strange how they looked as at a law enforcement solution to the crack problem, but then when it comes to opioids, it's a mental health issue. It's a addiction issue. Notice the different language here. Notice that. Notice that. The reason why I can believe the black community voted for this in the majority, or actually wanted it, is because the internet did not exist. It was easy to manipulate people. You know what people believed back then? You remember We for Madness? People believe that stuff. To this very day, there's black content creators with large audiences who still believe this stuff. Large audiences who still believe this stuff. Still believe this stuff. It's strange. Notice how this person is saying that I'm Clayton Bigsby, the person who's named Father ACAB. They're not Clayton Bigsby because they support a person who's a clear racist. This is the other thing that we got to get rid of in the black community. This is also raccoon behavior. Raccooning doesn't just come from the right. It comes from the left too. Well, so-called left, the so-called liberals. I mean, James Clyburn supported the crime bill that targeted us, and when they start discussing the opioid epidemic, they mention it as, oh, these people just need help because it's mostly a white problem. It's the white boys taking all the pills, see, and crushing them up. It's the white boys doing that. You know, it's Trailer Park Sam. You know, it's Cul-de-sac Carl. You know, it's Suburb Sally. All right. Middle class Michael, you know, well-to-do William. He's the one taking the pills. See, that's why they say it's a mental health issue, right? Because it's a white problem. It's a white problem. But then when it comes to black people, James Clyburn says it was a scourge. Scourge. Democrat. So-called black man. You know? So-called. I mean, I can't tell, but so-called. Allegedly. Allegedly. You know. Quote, this is what Representative James Clyburn says. Quote, they wanted it out of those communities, and they had gotten very tough on drugs. And that's why yours truly and other members of the Congressional Black Caucus voted for that 1994 crime bill, end quote. Oh, wait a minute. Hold up. Hold a minute. Hold a minute. I want to highlight that. Let's discuss it. And also, mods, if you see trolls, have fun, mods. So don't let the trolls be trolls. Because I want to have conversations. I want to actually talk to people here, right? And he says here, and that's why yours truly and other members of the Congressional Black Caucus voted for that 1994 crime bill. So Jim Clyburn, Jimmy Boy, Jimmy LaRue, Mr. Butter Biscuits, Mr. Catfish Nuggets, Mr. Bread Pudding, Mr. Lizard's Thicket, Mr. What? I got to ask, how you explain this one, bruh? The Congressional Black Caucus supported the 1994 crime bill that was originally written by not just Joe Biden, but Strom Thurmond? Strom Thurmond, the segregationist? Hold on a minute. Yikes. 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 That's a big yikes, bro. That is a yikes and Rooney. That is a yikes and Rooney. Yikes. 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 So you mean tell me that what I've been saying for the longest time has been true, that the real job of the Congressional Black Caucus and other groups that claim to represent black people is that at one point you might have been a good thing, but once the system of white supremacy sees that you are a good thing for the black community, then there's infiltration. We don't seem to understand that as the black community. Other groups understand that. They get that perfectly. You ask Asian people, they understand. They get the game. Hispanic people, oh, they definitely get the game. They get it for sure. You know? Jewish people, they get it. Nothing but love and respect for them. They get it. I can respect people who get it. They understand what's happening here. So you think this is about, oh, Joe Biden racist, Joe Biden bad. No. It's not just about Joe Biden. It's all the pawns and bootlicks who enabled Joe Biden. Right? By the way, my shirt says cops lie, record everything. Right? There's a message for all my listeners. Cops lie, record everything. All right? Never speak to the police. Ever. Say nothing. Back to the story though. Back to the broadcast. My thing is that everyone thinks, oh, this whole stream, this whole thing is about Joe Biden bad. Joe Biden bad. No. It's not just about Joe Biden. It's all the bootlicks who enabled him. It's people who enabled him, like James Clyburn. James Clyburn, who enabled Joe Biden to use legislative action against the black community to weaponize America's police departments, federal, state, local, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He enabled race soldiers to go after the black community. He enabled judges to put the mandatory minimums. He and Bill Clinton and all the Democrats, they were doing the Birdman hand rub, baby. They were cheerful. They were doing the drink and the two-step, baby. Because they could get mandatory minimums, kingpin laws, RICO charge. I mean, all kinds. They were, listen, judges were giving out time like candy. Like Halloween candy. Like black folks were banging on the doors to prison saying trick or treat. And the judge says, oh, come in, here's your candy, sometime. Won't you sit and stay a spell? Won't you sit and stay a spell? A 20, 30 year life sentence spell. But Your Honor, all I saw was a little bit of green. Kingpin. What do you mean, kingpin? I was just trying to pay a light bill. It don't matter, you kingpin. You ain't got to worry about a light bill. You're going to be in this jail cell now. Kingpin. That was Joe Biden and James Clyburn, and that was your Congressional Black Caucus. Your so-called representatives of the black community. Allegedly. Now, we're going to get more into why is Joe Biden having a hard time with the black community? Why is that? Why is that? Let's talk about black farmers. We're going to go down the gauntlet here tonight. Black farmers. Analysis. This is from Reuters. From Reuters. Is this a right-wing publication? I'm just curious. Is this like the Daily Caller, guys? Is this the Daily Caller? No, it's Reuters. It's Reuters. Analysis. Biden debt relief plan disappoints black farmers for avoiding race. So, the farm bill that was supposed to be for black farmers, it can mention LGBT, it can mention women, it can mention everything else except for black people. Just, you can have bills for the Asian community, you can have bills for white people. There was certainly bills. White slave owners got reparations, but we never did. You can put anything in legislation, but the second you mention black, it's got to be shared so that it can be diluted, or it can't be mentioned at all. This reported back on August 17th of 2022, last year. Not that long ago, right? Some black farmers say they are disappointed by a new U.S. agricultural debt relief program that stands to save thousands of farmers from foreclosure after the plan failed to specifically target minorities as they had hoped. The program, included in the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, signed by U.S. President Joe Biden on Tuesday, back then, follows an earlier debt relief program that provided aid based on race, but in a web of litigation after white farmers sued to stop payments. So white farmers, angry white cameras, we. The black farmers are gonna get something, guys. We. Oh no, guys. Oh no. Black farmers, they're gonna actually make some money, guys. So, crybaby white farmers, the strong folks, the type that Tucker Carlson says are strong types. They don't fight and gang up on people. They ganged up on a bunch of black farmers, and they sued, and they engaged in systemic white supremacy by getting black farmers removed from the farm bill. At least we know now who is more synonymous with the Karen. Strange how White folks outnumber us even in liberal cities, and yet we still have Karens in liberal cities. Just a side note. Just a side note. Just a funny aside. Just a funny aside. Right? The new program, which makes farmers eligible for relief based on economic precariousness rather than race, is likely to end that litigation and free up resources, allowing the Department of Agriculture, USDA, to help farmers, including those of color, avoid foreclosure. Those of color. Do you understand what that means? That means that all the people who ain't black, they're going to go to the front of the line. So you had us working the fields as slaves. You never paid reparations. You paid reparations to the slave owners. Slave owners. Slave owners. And now that we want to start farms of ourselves, you say, no bueno. Oh, God. Because of white Karens, because of the strong, powerful white race of Karens. Wow. At least we know who is the, who is definitely the, I shouldn't say that. Let me not go. Let me not go there. Advocates of the race-based program had hoped to continue the legal battles despite steep odds and see the economics-based program as a failure to address the specific injuries of racism. Wow. So we can work the fields, just don't own them. Right, Joe Biden? Right, Joe Biden? So we can work the fields, right? Just can't own them. Oh, listen. At least I know the rules now. At least I know the rules now, right? I know the rules now. At least, right? Right? It is fantastic. Fantastic how Joe Biden has failed black Americans. It is fantastic. I want you guys to hear something. You remember how black Americans said we wanted to defund the police? He says he wants to fund the police. He wants to fund the police. I want to see how we see the police. Right? This is from Statista. Right? This is from Statista. This is about how young adults most likely to favor decrease police spending. So young adults, and specifically black people in particular, want to defund the police. Right? Percentage of U.S. adults who believe police spending should decrease, who should decrease, increase, or stay the same. As you can see with black people, we're at 42%, but white people say at 44% they want to stay exactly the same. Higher than us, who wanted to decrease it. Keep it the same, guys. When was this taken? When was this taken? Back in 2020. This is before Tyree Nichols. Quiet as kept. This is probably before Dante Wright. A lot of people have forgotten about him already. Quiet as kept. Quiet as kept. It's amazing. At least, and I want you to see how fake Democrats are, right? I want you to see this, right? So, at least the Republicans, you can somewhat count on them to be somewhat consistent, right? somewhat consistent, right? So Republicans, right? They don't want to defund the police. They're only at 8% of Republicans want to defund the police. But there's a gap there of the Republicans who don't want to defund the police or increase the police spending. But look how indecisive Democrats are, right? So 41% of Democrats want to defund the police, right? Or decrease police spending. But 38% of Democrats want to keep it exactly the same. I wonder how many percentage of those Democrats are white. I bet most of them. Do you see the difference in gap, right? You see the country, that issue of defunding the police is a perfect snapshot. The country is not left. The country is actually right-leaning, as you can see. And this issue shows it. It shows you the race issue, the age issue, political issue, all in one. And it shows you that. The country is not... Many people think that America is going more and more to the left. Actually, when you look at the courts and the funding of the police and some of the other like policies, some of the mass surveillance is actually going to the right. Joe Biden is not a liberal. Joe Biden is not a leftist. Joe Biden is a right-wing Republican. I would doggone say fascist at this point. I mean, only a fascist would want to fund the same organization who's hurting the native black population at this point. That's a perfect snapshot for you, though. Right? So let's keep going. Right? Two-thirds of black Americans, according to PBS News Hour, right? Two-thirds of black Americans don't trust the police to treat them equally. Most white Americans do. So this also plays into why we want to defund the police. Makes sense. Why would I want to fund you, right? If I don't trust you. Think about it. It just kind of makes sense. Nearly half of black Americans have very little to no confidence that police officers in their community treat people with different skin colors the same, according to the latest PBS NewsHour NPR Marist poll. But overall, only 18% of Americans take that view. An illustration in itself that people of different races are living different realities in the U.S. Wow. Didn't I just say that? The perfect snapshot. It shows you that what black people have been saying, this country is not some left-leaning. This country is very, very right-leaning. It's very authoritarian. We are dealing with the most oppressive government over here. The most well-funded police on the planet with the most craziest military gear. We're fighting against that. All right. In the days since what happened to George Floyd, a third of all Americans, 35%, said they have a great deal of confidence that police officers in their communities treat black and white people equally. In this poll conducted June 2nd through the 3rd back in 2020. Community trust in law enforcement has eroded somewhat over the past few years as police involved unalivings of black people have come to national attention, prompting pain and outrage. In December of 2014, months after what happened to Michael Brown by a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri, a large number, 41% of Americans had a high degree of confidence in police. 41%. This poll was conducted back on June 3rd in 2020. And if you look here, only 6% of black people, they call us African Americans, but black descendants of American slaves or black immigrants or black Americans, people who have actually come over here, only 6% of us had a great deal of confidence in the police to treat us as equally as they treat white people, or as good as they treat white people, or to treat us equally at all. 48% of us said we have very little to no confidence at all that the police will treat us equally to white people. But I want you to notice the other races who answered here. Right? Latino and white, they had confidence. A great deal of confidence over us. In fact, Latinos had a fair amount of confidence at 36%. At 36%. And we had the highest, very little to no confidence at all. So that is the context. I wanted to go through all that before we watch this. Before we watch Joe Biden make this statement. I wanted to go through all that before you hear your boy Biden make this statement about funding the police. Right? I wanted to go through all that before we get into that. So let's have a conversation. Let's get into this. All right.
Works, investigating crime prevention and community policing, cops who walk the beat, who know the neighborhood, and who can restore trust and safety. Let's not abandon our streets or choose between safety and equal justice. Let's come together and protect our communities, restore trust, and hold law enforcement accountable. That's why the Justice Department has required body cameras, banned chokeholds, and restricted no-knock warrants for its officers. That's why the American Rescue Plan that you all provided $350 billion that cities, states, and counties can use to hire more police, invest in more proven strategies.
I wanted to pause it right there on James Clyburn. James Clyburn is clapping for funding the police. The same James Clyburn who voted for the 1994 crime bill. So he voted for the 1994 crime bill that gave police funding at a level at that time that was unprecedented, that disproportionately targeted black people. And now he's clapping in the modern day when Jim Crow Joe is out here funding the police. He just flat out said it. More funding, more resources for law enforcement. In fact, I want to hear that quote. Let's hear it.
Proven strategies like community violence interruption, trusted messengers, breaking the cycle of violence and trauma, and giving young people some hope. We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police. It's to fund the police.
I want to hear that again. I want the liberals to hear that again. Liberals, I want you to listen up. Hear that one more time. Hear that one more again, liberals.
Community violence interruption, trusted messengers, breaking the cycle of violence and trauma, giving young people some hope. We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police. It's to fund the police.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute, Joe Biden. You just said the answer is not to wait. Let's I have to make sure I'm not losing my mind. I know I just saw something. Right? I just saw something. And that something is this poll here from Statista. It says that most black people want to defund the police or seek decreased spending in the police. Right? 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 And this poll here from PBS NewsHour that says that 2/3 of black Americans don't trust the police to treat them equally, but most white people do. And you choose to fund these people, and you think that we were just cool with that? You didn't think that we want you to restructure some of that, to basically restructure some of that funding, to put it to force the police to behave? That's who you chose to fund. Instead of paying reparations like black people have been asking, you want to fund the police. Oh, okay. You fund the pigs, but don't pay the people who you are relying to get back into the White House. Oh, okay. Brilliant strategy. Hey, brilliant strategy. Hey, not the direction I would pick. Just gotta be honest. Just gotta keep it a buck. But you chose that. You chose that. You chose that. Okay. 2/3 of black Americans don't even trust the police. So, period. At least not to trust them to treat them equally. Now, we also know that we want reparations. Now, I want to go over this. This is from the Pew Research Center. This is from the Pew Research Center, guys. I want to go over this. This is some interesting information about reparations for slavery. Right? Right? We're going to go down to how do we determine if black people want reparations or not? Well, we've literally said it. Most black adults agree the descendants of enslaved people should be repaid. Oh. So most of us want it. Regardless if you're a Democrat or Republican or independent or what have you. Black Democrats more likely than Republicans to think the descendants of enslaved people should be repaid. Right? Percentage of black adults who say descendants of people enslaved in the U.S. should be repaid in some way, such as giving land or money. All black adults, according to the gold standard, the Pew Research Center is the gold standard for polls. This is what the white media keeps telling me. All black adults, only 17% say no, 77% say yes. Right? People who lean, who either vote or lean Republican, 34% said no, but 64% said yes. They want reparations. And other people who are Democrats and who lean Democrats, 16% said no, but 81% said yes. So both Democrats and Republicans are saying yes. Of the conservatives, 71% said yes, while only 23%, less than a quarter, said no. 71% of people who identify as conservative black people, black conservatives, said they want reparations. And of the moderates, 19% of black moderates said they say no. But 79% of black moderates, the independents, the people who are always in the middle, who are always in the middle, the fence riders, right? The fence riders are the first person to say, you know, we want reparations at 79%, almost 80%. And for the people who identify as liberals, 13% say no, but 84% says yes. And for black registered voters, again, it's going to be a big key for Joe Biden and Democrats. Of black registered voters, only 17% say they don't want reparations, but 80% say they want reparations. 72% of not registered voters say they don't want it. But 80%, the largest share of the voting or not voting, 80% are registered, right? The largest share here, as comparison, head to head. You need to really make reparations a campaign issue based on what you're seeing here. Clearly, right? Clearly, right? Most of us, most black people in America says the bigger problem in society is racism in our laws. 87% of us say yes, while only 10% say no. So 87% says there's racism in our laws. Joe Biden, why don't you simply give us tangibles, whereas you give us federal laws that protect us, an anti-black hate crime bill? Since we at 87%, almost 90% of the black people in your country who you claim to represent, who you say you need to get back into the White House, they're saying there's racism baked into the laws. If you make an anti-black hate crime bill, that would take care of all that, right? Or at least be a stepping stone. It will be something, right, Joe Biden? But no. And they say black men are a problem. Black men are a problem. See, black men, they the ones in the way. Well, not when it comes to reparations, because when it comes to reparations, black men say at 18% we say no, but at 77%, more than 3/4, we said we want our chips. Cut the check. Cut the check. Pay us. And black women, y'all strong. 16% say no, but 79%, almost 80%, more than 3/4 said we want our check. Cut the check. Didn't really matter the educational level. Didn't even matter income level of the black person, right? Didn't even matter then. We all want it, right? We all want it. All of us. Every last one of us. Right? But I want you to see something though. The foundational black Americans, or black descendants of American slaves, we standing 10 toes down when it comes to reparations, right? But I want you to notice, right? Foreign-born black people, right, are saying no to reparations at a higher level than U.S.-born black people, right? Right? People who identify as just black, they say that they actually want it. But then people who are multiracial or black Hispanic are saying no to it at a higher level than the people who are born here from the soil, who are the black natives, foundational black Americans. Wow. Wow. And it didn't really matter the age group. The numbers are somewhat similar. It's just where you come from. The lineage that appeared to matter the most. Educational level, it didn't matter the most. Politics didn't matter the most. Gender. Where you come from, though. And yet people have the nerve and the audacity to ask us, why do we want our own lineage? Well, you just saw a prime example of that. You just saw a prime example of that, right? But Joe Biden doesn't support reparations. And then we gotta watch this. We gotta watch this nonsense over here in New York. NYPD watchdog probing call not to arrest Daniel Penny and Jordan Neely's unaliving. NYPD, because this man's father is an NYPD retiree, a colonel. A colonel. A colonel. A colonel. That's fascinating, isn't it? See, and they don't even mention this in the article in the New York Post. Daniel Penny, Senior, NYPD. See. See. pretty sure. And that's the whole thing, right? You're getting all kinds of protection. You're getting all kinds of protection. You're getting all kinds of protection. And this is from DA Alvin Bragg. Your boy Alvin Bragg. He's supposed to be protecting black folks. He's supposed to be the guy who's in office saying, hey, I'm a black man. Guys, have you noticed? Have you noticed my skin color, guys? I'm a black guy. Wow. So, it is fascinating, right? Fascinating that this happens with Alvin Bragg, but then Jonathan Majors dropped by manager PR weeks after domestic violence arrest in NYC. These are accusations with Jonathan Majors. He's been dropped by... Kang has been conquered. Kang has been conquered by accusations. But it took so much to get Daniel Penny arrested. Wow. You don't think, Joe Biden, that you not stepping in on that case and making a statement saying, hey, anti-black racism is unacceptable and Daniel Penny should be behind bars? You don't think that's a problem? Let me ask y'all a question, man, at this point, man. Because we're coming up to the point where we're coming up to the end of the stream, man. Given everything that I've just shown you, do you understand why I don't care for Joe Biden? If not, I genuinely want to know, why you would ever support this dude at this point. Maybe he fooled you one time, cool. But if you're a black person, why? Just why? Doesn't want to pay reparations, wants to fund the police at historic levels, and doesn't really want to put charges on race soldiers who actually harm us. Was a segregationist at one point. Friends were segregationists at one point. Wrote a crime bill that we know what it did to our communities. But then writes other bills to support white communities when they go through their little opioid epidemic. Why? What has Joe Biden done to earn your support? Not what he did. What has he done for you lately? Whatever your answer is, I know what mine is. You don't want to cut a check from my people? And you want to fund these pigs? You want to act like a white supremacist? Well, guess what? I won't be voting for them either. That's going to be it for the Enemy of the State Live / Pitchfork Podcast on YouTube. So on TikTok, this is going to be known as Enemy of the State. And on YouTube, it's going to be known as the Pitchfork Podcast. Guys, until next time, be safe out there. Much love. Horns up, peace out, good night, and good luck.